Whenever I'm on a road trip, I have to stop at a country bakery because I love their vanilla slices. They're just so good. That flaky pastry on the top and the bottom and that silky smooth custard. Now, I want to try and replicate it and make one at home, but with a little point of difference. Just to make it extra special, I'm going to put a beautiful layer of berries in the centre. Fresh berries, so a combination of raspberries and strawberries. Now, you want to use really good puff pastry for this. I've got an all butter puff pastry. This is about 375 grams. I've preheated my oven to 200 degrees, so it's quite hot because we want this to go super flaky. Now, you can make your slice into any size you like. I'm going to use a rectangular tray and it fits the pastry perfectly. So what I'm going to do is just cut this so it fits into the tray. So what we do is bake our pastry first, and once it's baked, we start to assemble in this actual tray. So you want it to be roughly the same size. So once you've cut that in half, place that onto 2 trays. So I've just lined 2 flat trays with some baking paper. We'll grab our puff pastry, place the first one on one side, another piece of baking paper on top so it doesn't stick. And if you have flat trays like this, all you have to do is place the next tray, which is quite heavy, on top because you want this to be as flat and flaky as possible. The next piece of pastry goes on top and another piece of baking paper. Now again, we don't want this to puff up, so we'll place our heavy trays on top. This goes into the oven 200 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes or until the pastry is completely cooked and golden brown. All right, while the pastry is cooking, let's get onto the custard. So in a pot, I'll add some milk, about 1.5 cups of milk. To that, I'll add 1.5 cups of thickened cream. And we want to flavour this with some vanilla. So I've got some lovely vanilla bean paste and drizzle that in. Oh, smells great. So we'll turn the heat on again, and this needs to heat up and come to the boil. So we'll keep an eye on that. While that's heating up, the eggs, 6 egg yolks for my recipe, along with some corn flour. This is going to thicken it up nicely. We'll add that to our eggs and some caster sugar. Now we want to give this a really good mix. And at the beginning it looks like there's not enough egg yolk, but the moisture does come out of those eggs, and as you keep working it, a bit of elbow grease here, you'll see that it loosens up. Okay, that's lovely and fluffy, pale in colour, that's what I'm after. Now this has come up to the boil, we'll take that off, and we're just going to add a little bit to start with, just so we're not stunning those eggs. We don't want to stun them because we'll get scrambled eggs. So we're going to whisk in that hot milk just to loosen up the custard, and then we can add a little more. So little by little we'll add that and keep adding that vanilla milk and cream mixture. All right, this now needs to thicken up, so we're going to return it to a pot. I'll use a clean pot for this, and we'll pour that in. And what we want to do is just constantly mix this with a wooden spoon until we get a thick, glossy custard. All right, we've got a lovely thick custard now, and this is going to thicken up even more as it cools down slightly. So take this off the heat, and just to make this extra glossy, I like the addition of some butter. So some cold butter, and little by little, I'll add a few cubes of the unsalted butter and just allow that to melt in. Then the custard is done. We can just pop it into a bowl with a bit of cling film over the top, and it can sit there until our pastry is cooked. And in the meantime, I can get onto my berries. So you need lovely fresh berries for this recipe. I've got the raspberries and the strawberries. I'm actually going to leave my raspberries whole, and for my gorgeous fresh strawberries, I'm just going to cut them in half and then some in quarters. All right, the custard has cooled down slightly. We've removed our pastry from the oven, and I've just allowed it to cool slightly. You can see that it shrinks a little bit. That's totally fine. And now for the fun part, which is assembling. So I like to place a little bit of cling film on the base of my tin. This is just going to make it much easier to demold later on. And we'll place one of our pastry sheets on the bottom. Then we're going to add half of our custard. So we'll just pour that over the top, and we'll just reserve the rest for a moment. We're going to spread that out to completely cover the pastry. Next, our beautiful berries. So we want to really go heavy on the berries. We'll start with our strawberries and they'll go over the top. Next, some raspberries. And look how plump these gorgeous things are. We'll just use a whole punnet there. And again, spreading it out so it's quite even. Finally, the rest of our custard can go on top. And again, just spreading that out so it's completely covering our berries. Okay. Finally, the last piece of pastry goes on top and we're going to squish that together. Now, another piece of cling film over the top. And again, just assuring everything is completely covered in the cling film. We'll just press that down gently. And we'll just place another little weight on top and then this goes into the fridge. Now you want to chill it for at least 4 to 5 hours or even better, overnight. Okay, this has been chilling for a while, so let's take it out of the plastic and the container. If you did want to speed up the process, you could just place it in the freezer for a few hours, just at the last minute. And by doing that, we're just ensuring that we get a nice, solid custard so it's easy to cut through. Okay, so to trim this, I'll start with just a regular chef's knife and we'll just cut the sides. Oh, look at that. And see how we're exposing all those beautiful berries that we added to it. We'll just keep that to one side. Don't waste it, little chef's treats. And then to cut through the pastry, I highly recommend using a serrated knife. So let's cut this, just turn it. I'll trim this edge too. And then with a serrated knife, it's just much easier to slice through. We're just going to cut this just very gently through that flaky pastry. And a vanilla slice is never complete without a generous dusting of icing sugar over the top. And for me, this is just heaven. Have a look at the berries that are in this vanilla slice. I think vanilla slice in general is great, but then you put fresh berries bursting with flavour, raspberries, strawberries. That's just a thing of beauty there. I'm going to have a little taste. Cut that in half. And there's only one way to eat this. Dig in. Don't cut this with a knife or fork. This quite possibly may be my best vanilla slice to date. It's that good. Please try it. You're going to love it as much as I do. So good.